Okay, so we are now recording and I'm going to start the session. So, good morning, everybody, or good evening if you're joining us, as a few of you are, from South America or Central America. So welcome to another National Geographic Learning Professional Development webinar. Today we are doing a model lesson where you, the teacher, become the student. You will learn teaching tips and ideas through taking part in the lesson, because we believe that the best way to learn something is by doing it. My name is Will Lachette. I had a few people asking about my name earlier, so it's pronounced Lachette. I'm originally from the UK, but I now live in Singapore, and I have been living, teaching, and training in English language teaching in Asia since 2001. And while we are talking about teaching, let's do our first poll. So I'm going to put, you can see the question here, okay, on the slide. But I'm also going to put the poll box up here. So if you are watching on Facebook, you will just be able to see the slide, okay, and you can answer in the comments if you like. If you are here with us on Zoom, we've got about 150 people here. I would like you to answer the two questions up there that you can see. So the first one is, which segments do you teach? And you can choose as many as you like. So do you teach perhaps very young learners and young learners? Maybe you teach teens as well. So just click on the ones that you teach. And the second question there is, we had another webinar on Tuesday, which was called Pathways to Exam Success with Christian Lee. And that webinar and this webinar, they are paired webinars, so they're using the same program. So they're both using our title Pathways. I'm curious to know how many of you attended that webinar. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a few more seconds to answer. See if we can get it. Yeah, we're up to 70%. Okay, 70% of you have voted. Just over 100 of you. Okay, so let's have a look. Let's have a look at the results. So I'm going to read them out because if you're on Facebook, you won't be able to see them. Okay, let's share. Yeah, so we can see that we've got 47% of you. So roughly half of you are teaching teens and adults, exactly the same percentage. And 8% of you are not teachers, and just a few of you are teaching very young learners, 26% teaching young learners. So that's great, that's perfect, because the program we're looking at today, Pathways, is an academic skills program, which is perfect for teens and for adults. So yeah, so for the majority of you, we've got, you're in the right place, okay, looking at the right program today. Also interesting for me, I can see 62% of you did attend on Tuesday. So that's great to see so many of you coming back. And I see here that 11% of you registered but did not attend, and I can see in the chat box a few of you saying that you couldn't attend. Okay, so just to remind you, if you did register but you couldn't attend, you can find this webinar, Christian's webinar. It is on our Facebook page, and it's also on our webinar page, which I will give you the details to later on. Okay, so thank you for sharing that information in the poll. Okay, so today's lesson is from Pathways, as I mentioned, and it is from Unit 6 in Level 3. And we are looking at the reading, writing, and critical thinking strand of Pathways. So the CEFR level, or CEFR level, is B2. So that is an upper intermediate level. So the materials we're looking today are quite challenging. The reading lesson looks at how information is presented. One way that we can present information is through a plain reading text, which is just words and sentences and paragraphs. But we're also going to be talking about visuals, which are an important way to present information. So maps, charts, graphs, pictures, okay, these are all types of visuals. And today we're going to start off by talking about a different type of visual called an infographic. So I'm curious to see what you think or what you already know about infographics. So I'm going to ask you to type into the chat box for me. Okay, what is an infographic? Okay, what do you think it means? And Sarah says it's info given using a graphic. Okay, Indaleka says it's a diagram that has info. Okay, very good. A picture or a poster full of information from Sherry. Okay, there we go. So some great ideas here. Ben says, I can get information from graphics. There are less words, but a lot of information, much information, a lot of information. So Ben, I think that is a very good description. So basically, at a very simple level, an infographic, it is a portmanteau. So a portmanteau is when we take two words and put them together. So we've taken info and graphic and put them together. And I've taken this, this quote is from a book written by Walter, and I don't know how to pronounce the name, Gioglio, in 2014. And they put the infographics in a nutshell, or to explain very briefly, they're bringing together the best of data, the best of visuals, and we're using it to craft some kind of story. So I think this is an important element to mention, the story. They make the infographics make information easier to understand by giving us some kind of context or enabling us to envisage some kind of story behind this information. This quote I've taken from their book is called The Power of Visual Storytelling. Okay, so we talked a little bit about infographics. So next is, why is it important for people to be able to read visual data? Before we do that, I would like you, again, I'm going to ask you to type into the chat box for me. So we've got a very famous proverb, or perhaps it's a cliche. I'd like you to complete it for me. And the proverb is, knowledge is something. Knowledge is something. Abigail says it's power. That's right. Okay, knowledge is power, but only if we have the right information. Okay, otherwise it's misleading us. So our students need to be able to, comprehend. They need to be able to analyze, and they need to be able to interpret and make value judgments on all kinds of visual data. So this is very important, and we know that in today's world, the way that we are exposed to data is changing, and it's not just written word. More and more we are confronted with visuals and infographics, so we need to be able to understand, but not just understand, to also analyze and interpret and make value judgments on this type of information. Understanding and reading visual data, this is a real world skill. It's something that we need in real life, and it's something that we need for our studies, for academia, but also something that we need in the workplace. It's something that we need every day of our lives. Okay, every day we are looking at information, we're looking at data, and we need to be able to understand it. So this is something extremely important for all of us. We need to know, is it real? Is it valid? Is it biased? Is it trustworthy? Is it misleading? Okay, good. So we're going to swap over, and we are going to, I've got lots of nice comments here. Visuals speak louder than text. That's right. Okay, seeing the information in a more beautiful way. Yeah, so lots of useful information that you're giving me in the chat box there. I'm going to stop sharing, okay, just for a moment, and I'm going to do a new share. We're going to go and watch. We're going to have a look at my, if I can find it. We're going to go over to the classroom presentation tool, which is how I'm going to be doing most of this information today. Okay, let's see. I would prefer, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, here we go. So what we're looking at now, we're now looking at the classroom presentation tool. So this is a digital, basically a digital textbook, okay, which has all of the information, all of the different units from Pathways, but it also has a lot of other features such as audio, video, games, okay, interactive activities. So we're looking today at information design. So we're going to go into the unit, and we are looking at Unit 6. So we can see up on the screen now, you should be able to see, well, you can tell me, okay, can you tell me what can you see on the screen right now? Can you type into the chat box for me? What can you see? You can see the Earth. Michael says the Earth. You can see space. Okay, good. Maybe if we zoom in a little bit, make that a bit bigger for you. Anything else that you can see? It's an infographic about the Earth, a poster of the globe. Ah, right, here you go, Rudy. Rudy says satellite orbits. Okay, so we are looking at the Earth, and we're looking at these lines that we can see. Actually, they're not lines of latitude and magnitude. They are, if we read down here, it says NASA's satellite orbital pathways. Right, exactly, orbital pathways of satellite orbits. Rico, you've got it. We're looking at satellite orbits. And we can see a lot of them. Yeah, satellites circling the Earth. Okay. So there's a lot of information on here. We can see that there are a lot of different satellites. We can see the trajectory. We can see the type of orbit, the direction, whether it's going north to south or east to west. We can see they're at different heights. Okay, yeah, interesting. We can see that this one here, the blue one, the OSTM, is higher, okay, than this red one here. The red one, I'm not sure, that's the GPM core. We've got different colors. Can you tell me how many different types of satellite are represented in this infographic? Yeah, there are 5. Okay, well done. And can you tell me which are the blue one? The blue ones, what kind of information are the blue satellites collecting? Right, so they're collecting information about the ocean. Okay, so it's blue, which makes sense. How about the red ones? Okay, which information are they collecting for NASA? They're collecting information about the atmosphere. Okay, so that's good. So that might help us to explain why here, for example, we've got two satellites which have a very similar orbit, very close to each other. We've got a red one and a white one. So why do we have 2 satellites following almost the same orbit? Can anyone type into the chat box for me? Why would NASA have 2 satellites following the same? Yeah, Ayu's got it. So they're reading different information. So they're collecting different types of information from the same orbit. Exactly. So we can see here by looking at this infographic, we actually have a lot of different types of information. We can ask our students questions and we can elicit more information from them. We can actually do this as an exercise. So what does the infographic show? And we can ask our students, and we can also give them a nice simple response here. So the infographic shows the paths. One of you said pathways of NASA's satellites which circle or orbit around the globe daily, collecting information related to land, ocean, atmosphere, and solar radiation. Something I think Adam is asking, is this for intermediate to advanced? Yeah, this is for B2. This is for basically upper intermediate students. Okay, so it is quite high level that we're looking at here. I think that this would be a very nice exercise for perhaps students who are, academic students, maybe are thinking about doing an exam like the IELTS exam. It is academic English, that's right. And we could actually, from this, we could ask them to do a description, like in the IELTS task 1, we could actually ask them to do a written description of what this is showing. And we could use this answer here, we could use this as the sort of introductory first sentence, okay? And then they could continue it from there and explain in more details about the different types of satellites. So that would be a nice task if we wanted to extend this lesson, we wanted to give them a writing task, that's something that we could easily do. Okay, the second one, what are some other ways in which information and data can be presented visually? So I mentioned this earlier on. We could also look at things like graphs, charts, mind maps, and diagrams, and we're going to have a look at a few of those in a moment. Okay, let's move on to our second infographic. So I'm going to show us both pages. So again, let's have a look. We can see something on the screen. What can you see? We can see auto parts. Okay, very nice. car parts. Can anyone tell me what type of car this is? Does anyone recognize the type of car or the model of car? It's not a Beetle. It is. It's a Mini. It's a Mini Cooper. It's the new Mini, a Mini Cooper. And does anybody know which country or which? Okay, so Adam, they're originally from the UK. The old Mini, the original, but the new Mini is not from the UK. It's from Germany. That's right, and it is made by which German company? It's BMW. Yamazaki has got it. It's made by BMW. So it's a German car, originally British, okay, and now a German car made by BMW. Okay, great. So we can see there are lots of different parts on here. We talked earlier about an infographic being data and visuals. Okay, so if we look at the data here, let me go in. Let me go into the exercise so we can get rid of the text there. If we zoom in here, can you tell me what kind of data is being shown on here? What kind of data? So we've got the parts, yes, but if we see underneath the part, if we look here, it says, for example, grill. So we've labeled the parts, but there's more information here. Yes, it's showing the origin, so where this part is made. So we can see that the grill here, this grill is made in Germany, and we can also see the headquarters. So where is the company headquarters? So in this case, the grill is made in Germany and the headquarters are in Germany. But let's try another one. Can you have a look for me? I'd like you to find the headliner. Okay, I'd like you to find the headliner. And can anyone tell me where is the headliner made? Yeah, Amu says it's made in the UK. And where are the company headquarters? So made in the UK, but the company headquarters are in Spain. That's right. Okay, here we go. So we can see that although BMW make this car, we can see that actually the parts are made in lots of different places, and we can see that they must be different companies because the company headquarters are in different places. So this is the data that we're being shown. In terms of the visuals, okay, what visuals are we being shown here? What visuals can we see? So we can see the different parts of the car. Exactly. And I mentioned just now the headliner. Now, I imagine that most of you, myself included, I did not know this word headliner. Okay, for me, a headline, okay, is something you see in a newspaper, right? So this piece of, it looks like a piece of fabric which is underneath the roof. Okay, so it's that kind of soft fabric that goes underneath the roof, which makes it look nice and it makes it comfortable to sit inside the car. And it's very easy to visualize what that is from this infographic. So without having to go in to explain what it is, we know what it is because we've been in a car, but we didn't know what it was called. So this infographic, it really illustrates that very nicely for us so that we can learn something. Even for us, perhaps as English teachers, I think a lot of us did not know this word headliner. So we can see here the infographic is really excellent at showing us labeling different parts of the car. And something more than that, what else is it doing? So by dissecting the car like this, there we go. I didn't know grill was spelt with an E. Okay, there we go. So we're all learning something from this. But we're also learning how the car fits together. So if we just had a picture of the car, which we traditionally do, it's very hard to see what the function of the different parts. But in this, because it's been dissected, we can really understand how the different parts fit together. We can see that the grille goes on top of the bumper, in front of the engine, and underneath the hood or the bonnet. So I think for me, this is a very, very effective infographic for helping us understand not just the names and the labels and where the parts are from, but also how the car actually works. We can see that there's a lot of information here. Okay, I'm going to show you the text. Okay, so we've looked at what the infographic shows. Well, let me ask you, I think it's an effective infographic. What do you think? Okay, so question number 2, do you think this is an effective infographic? Why or why not? So let's see your opinion. Hanjun says Nat Geo books normally use US English. It's not, Hanjun, actually, our programs, a lot of our programs, you can get in British English or American English, and the vocabulary will be adjusted to show that. This one we're looking at right now is an American English title. Okay, so Pathways is American English, but a lot of our programs you can have both American or British English. A lot of you are saying, yes, it's effective if you want to know about car parts. There's so many details that you can learn, says Manasseh. Rudy says, I like the exploded view, okay, that can help me understand inside the machines, right? Okay, because it's not, often it's not easy to understand. So it's a very, I think most of you are saying it's very effective. So we've got an answer here. Okay, yes, I can clearly see the different car parts, which countries they come from. We've also got the opposite view. Maybe some of our students think it's not. Maybe they don't like it. Maybe they feel it's too cluttered. So maybe they feel there's too much going on there and it makes it difficult for them to understand. So we've got some suggested answers here on the CPT, the classroom presentation tool. I'm going to zoom in a little bit onto into the text, because there's a little bit of text here. So I'm going to show you that. We can see here, let's highlight it. We mentioned earlier on where the car was from. We said it's a BMW, okay, and it's made BMW Mini. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions I would like you to find the answers to. So first question I'm going to ask you is this one. What do infographics enable designers to do? So it's made by a designer. Okay, so not perhaps not an academic, it's made by a designer. So and Indalika has got the answer here: to convey complicated information. So I'm going to highlight that. Okay, we can see here with a single infographic, designers are now able to convey complicated information and help us to interpret the meaning of vast data sets. There we go. So this is really the advantage of an infographic. We can show very complicated information and we can show huge amounts of information in one picture. And this is really down to cleverness and skill in design. All these words in blue here, they are actually explained, okay, these target language, they're explained elsewhere on the page. One more question for you here. I mentioned earlier, I talked about an infographic being a data, visuals used to craft a story. So I'd like you to read this and find out for me, what is the story being told by this infographic? Let's see if anyone can find it. What is the story being told here? See if anyone can find it. And Indalika, you're very fast. Okay, another point to you, Indalika. It is a global product. So we can see here, the infographic allows a viewer to see the bigger story. Although the car is made by a German company, it is actually a global product. And we can use this to help our students understand the concept of globalization and how companies these days, they outsource work to different companies around the world. So when you buy a German car, you're really buying a truly global product, which has is a collaboration between companies from all around the planet, and also being produced in different places. Producing a car is complex. It's a truly global product. Okay, well done, Indalika, for getting that right. Okay, so this is, yeah, as I say, just an example, okay, of one very nice infographic. And as someone mentioned earlier, again, it would be perfect for an IELTS task one, okay, getting students to write and to describe what they can see in here. We can also see here the activity, we actually have these words in blue. Okay, we have the definitions here to make sure that our students understand what's going on there. Excuse me. Okay, so we're going to move on. So I said this is a reading lesson, so we're going to have a look at the reading text. So the reading text we're looking at today is called The Rise of Visual Data, and we can see a nice image here of Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, and he is illustrating here the connections, the worldwide connections through Facebook, how the world is so connected through his platform. Now, before we start the reading, we have a lot of exercises here, pre-reading, preparing to read. We have vocabulary, we have discussion, we have brainstorming, and we have predicting. So we have all of these different task types designed to get our students engaged, interested in the topic, and also to help them predict and understand and discuss the concepts before they read to help them understand it. So we're not going to do all of these because we don't have the time. I'm just going to show you a couple of these. So I think maybe some of the vocabulary would be useful to do here. And we've got example sentences with the target language. For example, objective here. Good journalists aim to present the news in an objective manner. And if we scroll down here, we can see the we can see the definition. So maybe if you can tell me this word objective, is it 3, 4, or 5? Which one of these has the correct meaning of objective? It's number 5. Okay, so I'm going to click on it and we can see here the word objective. It means based on facts. So not your personal bias. It means not from your personal opinion. What's the opposite to objective thinking? We've got another word that begins with S. It is subjective. That's right. So subjective means it is purely from our personal bias or purely from our personal opinion. It is not based on facts. It's based on our emotion, on our feeling. So we've got objective and subjective. Okay, I'm not going to go through all of these words. We've got this one here, which I think is important. This one, misleading. Misleading, let's see if we can find it down here. It's number 7. Okay, so this is making someone believe something that is not true. And we're going to have a look at one more. This one, downside. Okay, so let's scroll up here. Downside. Can anyone see the meaning of downside here? Is it 1, 2, 3, or 4? It is number 1. Okay, downside is another word for a disadvantage. That's right. So perhaps one that is not as frequently used. What's the opposite of a downside? We can have the downside, and we can also have an advantage. We can have the upside, Ganesh. That is right. We can have the upside or the downside, the upside to something, the downside to something. See that we need to use this preposition. Okay, perfect. So as I said, we're not going to go through this. But I will just show you some of the other activities, or zoom in a little bit. Over here, the discussion questions. What do you think are the downsides of using information from the internet? What kind of misleading information have you seen online? So this is a very very interesting, I think, topic to talk about, to get students to analyze, to use some critical thinking here. And this is obviously related to what we're going to read in just a moment. Amir says it's amazing how vocabulary is first presented in context and then scaffolded by definition. That's right. And we need to present the context, because otherwise it's very difficult to understand. So we're going to be looking at the downsides of information and also how information can be misleading. Brainstorming here, what are the benefits of infographics for people working in business, in education, or in journalism? This is a perfect opportunity to put students into groups, into 3 different groups: business, education, and journalism. They talk about it, then we can do ABC groups, put them in together, and they can present their findings and discuss. Really nice activity, really getting students involved with the topic before we start the reading. Okay, we are going to have a look at the reading. So let me just zoom back out again. And we're going to listen, okay, and we're going to read. As I say, it is a reading lesson, but as we are doing this online, I think it would be nice for us to listen along as well. This is a nice feature of using the CPT, that we can read and listen at the same time. So let me give you a question in fact, sorry, before we do this, I actually wanted to do something else first. I want to have a look at some of the visuals. So this article presents three different visuals. I want to have a look at that. So let's zoom in here. This is quite important. So here we've got, well, again, can you tell me into the chat box, what can you see? What can you see right now? I hope it's big enough for you to see. Give you a few seconds to read and analyze. It's a graph. That's right. We can see a graph or a chart. Yep. A graph is a type of chart. So both those answers are right. It's temperature data. Great. How about the data in blue? Okay, this data in blue, where does this data come from? It's temperature in the past times. Okay, how did they get this information? The blue data, these lines here. Here we go, tree rings. Okay, tree rings, corals. So this is data about temperature. It's historical data, which they've got from things like tree rings. So if we cut down a tree, we can see each year there is a ring which shows us how much it has grown. So what do you think? Tell me, do you think a tree would grow more if the weather was warm or if it was cold? What do you think? Does the tree grow more in warm weather or cold weather? In warm weather, Amu, you are right. So actually we can tell when there's a winter, okay, that's when the tree stops growing. So we can work out the average temperature of the year by how much the tree grows by comparing trees from different parts of the world. How about the data in red? What is this showing us, the data in red? So the red part over here, what's this data? The red data, how did we get this information? It's the temperature. And we got it from thermometers, that's right. And what year? So over here, we can see this is the year 1000 and here the year 2000. So we've got 1,000 years worth of data. Where does the thermometer data start? It starts around 1900, that is right. And why do we think the data starts around 1900? When the thermometer was invented. Okay, right. So actually, the thermometer was invented around 1700, but I think the thermometer probably came into widespread use around 1900. So perhaps that was when it started to become mass produced and was distributed around the world. So this is why we have this thermometer data from the year 1900. Okay, this line 0, this does not mean 0 degrees. Okay, this means the average temperature from 1960, from here, 1961 to 1990, this was the world's average temperature. So when we're looking at minus 0.2 here, we can see that the world's average temperature was 0.2 degrees lower in the year 1000 than it was in around 1960 to 1990. So this does not mean 0 degrees, it means colder than the average temperature. So if we draw a line on here, okay, I'm going to draw a green line, okay, from here down to here, and this is going to show us the trend. So what is the trend from the year 1000 to the year 1900? What is the trend there? What can we say about the average temperature? And Ayu says it's slight decrease. Okay, there is a slight decrease in temperature from the year 1000 to the year 1900. Okay, now interestingly, if I now take a different color, okay, and I take a different brush size, if I chart from 1900 to 2000, okay, what can we say about the temperature from 1900 to 2000? We can say that there is a dramatic increase. It is soaring, Amir says. That is right. It is rising, rise sharply. Now, all of you are using absolutely wonderful vocabulary in here. And I'm going to just quickly swap over to a new share. And I'm going to show you something else. Okay, so this is actually an activity that I would use. It's a great opportunity to introduce this this language of change. So can you see now? We're looking at OneNote. Okay, can you see it? So we've got some text boxes on here. Can you see that? Yes. Okay, great. So what I've done here is I've taken some verbs and I've taken some nouns and I've put them in here. And we got some of the ones you used. Saw. Okay, saw. We had. It was one of the ones I saw. So what I would do usually is I'd put them in a box like this, and I'd give my students verb up, verb down, noun up, noun down, and I would get them to categorize and put them in the right place. Now you will know that some of these are actually verbs and nouns, right? Okay, so we'd have to put them in two different places, right? Okay, now to go on top of that, a lot of you put in things like dramatic, okay, dramatic increase or rising dramatically. So we're also going to put in here, we've got adjectives and adverbs to quantify, and we're going to categorize those into big or small change. So let's see, if I want to look for an adverb that shows a big change, okay, an adverb for a big change, can one of you find a word in this box which I could add here So an adverb which is showing us a big change. Can you find one? And I will type it into the box here, dramatically. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, there we go, Nell. So I'm going to put that in here. How about, can you find for me an adjective which shows a small change? An adjective which shows a small change. Okay, slight, there we go, and we can put it in here. So students are going to do a bit of dictionary work, okay? They can discuss, share their ideas. They, this is a whole activity in itself. And then once they've done that, they will have two charts which look like this. And then what we're going to do then is we're going to give them two sentence stems, okay? We're going to give them a structure which they can use. So let's have a look. We've got two sentences here which relate to the graph that I just showed you. So I've got here, between the years 1000, 1900, there was a, so we can see up here, if we use there was a, we're going to use an adjective and a noun. Okay, so if we quickly go back, this is 1000 to 1900. So I want us to make a sentence, okay, that we can use, and I can fill in the details here. So between the years 1000, actually, can you help me here? Which word shall I put in here? Between, so we've got the word between, which word shall I put there? Yeah, and, okay, that's right. And I want to highlight this because this is a very common mistake in English. People get confused between and from to. So we're going to put there was a, and we're looking for an adjective and noun. So what should we put in? Adjective and noun, there was a. I think some of you already put it, but I've lost it in the chat box. So can we put it again? There was a minimal. Okay, let's go for that. Minimal. Okay, so we could put in here minimal decrease. We could put in slight drop, slight decrease. Okay, there we go. Minimal decrease. So a lot of different ones we can put in. I'm going to go for this one. Slight drop. I think that sounds nice. There was a slight drop in average global temperatures. Okay, now let's look at 1900 to 2000. Here we go. We got the steep red line. So what can we put in here? Excuse me. I'm sorry, just got a slight cough there. So the Earth's average temperature. So this one here, we've got the Earth's average temperature. This time we want a verb and an adverb. So what are we going to put in? There, the Earth's average temperature. So we want verb plus adverb. Okay, now someone's put in here, Dan has put rises dramatically, but we need it in the past tense. Amu's put substantial increase. Now that's the wrong form. Okay, so we want verb and adverb. And we want verb, so dramatically rising is the wrong way around. So we want verb first. We can see here, verb first, then adverb. Okay, right. Increased dramatically, says Suchi. Okay, so let's put that in, right? The Earth's average temperature increased significantly. Let's put that. Okay, increased significantly. We could put that in. We could say rose dramatically. We could say soared. Okay, it soared dramatically. Someone's put here roared up. Okay, roared up. Okay, I'm not sure if I'd use roar for temperature, but yeah, that's certainly a great idea. Yeah, so here we can see that there's a lot going on in this exercise. I'm seeing some of you are putting the words the wrong way around. And, we would spend more time usually scaffolding and studying these models, giving example sentences. But the aim, obviously, in the end is to get your students to produce this language. We can then go back in here and we can give them different dates. So we could give them the date from here to here, and they can do this sharp drop. Then we could introduce language like fluctuate. So we could do from here to here. We could say the temperature's fluctuated. And as someone mentioned earlier, this is extremely good for IELTS again, okay, but for academic writing in general, where we're having to talk and we're having to interpret these kind of visuals. One more thing I'm going to mention about this. One more thing, if I can find the right thing. Yeah, here in terms of pronunciation, just want to mention this because it's a common mistake. We've got here, there is an increase in temperature every year. This is a noun. And we've got here, temperatures increase every year. This is a verb. I'm just going to say that again. So if we've got this two-syllable word here, it's a noun. listen to how I pronounce it. There is an increase in temperature. So can you tell me which syllable did I stress there? Was it the first or second syllable? There is an increase in temperature every year. There is an increase. Okay, so it is the first syllable. So I'm just going to try and underline that. Okay, oh, that's not underlined. Okay, let's make it bold, right? I'm going to bold it, okay, to show. And the second one, temperatures increase every year. Temperatures increase every year. So this one, as Amir has just put in, this one is the second syllable. So I'm going to bold that there. So actually, this is quite common in English. If we have a noun and a verb which are the same, we often differentiate between them through pronunciation. So for the noun form, the stress will be on the first syllable, and for the verb form, the stress will be on the second syllable. So this is also useful information for our students. Okay, there we go. Right, let's go back. Okay, let's go back into our CPT, and we're going to move over here and have a look at some information. All right, now here we go. What we're looking at now, let's zoom in a little bit. Can you tell me, please, what are we looking at right now? Okay, so we're looking at, who can tell me, what are we looking at? We're looking at a graph, a line graph, well done. And it is showing us, oh, I should move up a little bit, there we go. It's a graph showing us what information? Athlete's performance, that's right. Okay, and let's just mark on the screen here. I'm sorry, that's not very good. Okay, so down here, okay, we've got the x-axis. I'm sorry, I don't know why my pen is not working very well. Okay, there we go. It's working better now. Okay, and here we've got the y-axis. So the x-axis is showing us time, okay, and the y-axis is showing us performance. And what do we notice? Yeah, the correlate, Mark puts here, the correlation between performance and time. And what are these dots at the top? Okay, so what are these dots here showing us? This is showing us the what? What's the dot? It's the peak performance, that's right. And when was the peak performance? If we look at the description of the figure down here at the bottom, when was that? When was the peak performance? When they appeared on the cover. Okay, so this graph, what can we say happened? So their peak performance was when they appeared on the magazine. And what happened after they appeared on the magazine? To all three athletes. It was the highest time. So after they appeared, there was a decline, right? So this, what conclusion, okay, what conclusion can we draw from looking at this graph? We can conclude that all three athletes, okay, reached their highest performance when they appeared on the cover, and after they appeared on the cover, they declined, okay? There we go. So this is the conclusion which we perhaps will draw from looking at this. All right, let's have a look at one more, okay, one more visual. I just need to get rid of that and move this across. Okay, the last one. So here we're looking at, a bar chart, which is showing us two drugs, the performance of two drugs. And I'm going to do another poll for you here. I would like you to tell me, I would like you to show me what you think about this. So I'm going to start the poll, launch the poll here. So looking at the graph there, looking at the two drugs, I want you to tell me how much more effective was drug A than drug B. So we can see the chart here. Okay, so we've got about 10% more effective. Is it 50% more effective? Is it twice as effective? 3 times as effective? Is it 4 times as effective, or 5 times as effective? So we can see the data. All right, I'm going to give you a few more seconds. So at the moment, not many of you have voted. Okay, I think I can see a lot of you are thinking carefully about this. If you are on Facebook, you can type into the comments box. Okay, and I'll just give you a few more seconds. Only 25% have voted at the moment. I can see a lot of you are not You don't want to commit. Okay, just give you a few more seconds. Let's see if we can get up to a third of you. Here says, not a great idea to put English teachers' maths ability into practice. Yeah, maybe that's true. Okay, all right, 35% have voted. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll and share the results. Okay, so interesting. So let's see, 40% of you have said that 10%, it's 10% more effective, about 10%. 16% said 50%, 60% said three times as effective. Okay, so 40% went for 10% more effective. Okay, let's see if we can remember that for later on. Okay, perfect. 10% said 5 times more effective. All right, let's stop sharing. Okay, and we're going to go back and have a look at the, I'm going to have a listen, okay, and a read, and we're going to check some of this information. All right, so I need to get rid of my annotations. Let's clear that, clear all drawings. I need to try and get my chat box out of the way. And I need to go back to the previous page. Okay, can I clear my annotation and get rid of the annotation tool? Got a lot of things going on here behind the scenes that you can't see. Okay, here we go. So we're going to start, we're going to listen, okay, to some of the information, right? So as we listen, I'm going to...
Unit 6, Reading 1.
The rise.
I'm going to show you the script, okay, so that we can read and listen at the same time. This is really nice for students to be able to do this. Obviously, you can just get them to read without the listening, or you could get them to listen without the reading. It's up to you. We're going to do both to make it easier to understand. As we're listening here, I'm going to give you a question to answer. So I want you, first of all, to tell me, okay, how long does it take for the brain to interpret an image? Okay, so that's what we're listening for. How long does it take for the brain to interpret an image?
Is a visual data. Visual data, charts, maps, and infographics are more prevalent than ever. Every day we are exposed to visual data in print, in online media, and in the apps we use. Why is visual data so common today? And are there any downsides to living in a world of visual data? The power of visuals. The human brain can interpret a complex concept more quickly when it is presented visually than when it is explained on printed text. A 2014 study at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, for example, showed that humans can interpret an image of a smiling couple after seeing it for only 13 milliseconds, nearly 10 times faster than the blink of an eye.
I was going to pause there. I can see a lot of you are putting in there 13, okay? 13. Now we got this word here. Now this is a word that perhaps we don't often encounter. So I'm just going to play this again.
After seeing it for only 13 milliseconds. After seeing it for only 13 milliseconds.
Okay, now I'm interested in this word. So the first vowel sound here, we've got an I sound, right? Okay, we've got the I sound. How about the second I in this word? How do we pronounce that? Can anyone type into the chat box? Okay, so what is the sound that we're hearing there? I'll play it one more time.
After seeing it for only 13 milliseconds.
Okay, so someone's put in there the E sound. Okay, so it's not the E sound. Let me play it again.
After seeing it for only 13 milliseconds.
Okay, there we go. So the reason I'm highlighting this is because I realized after listening to this that I had been saying this word incorrectly. So yeah, some of you put in there, it's the schwa. Okay, so I always assumed that this was an I sound, millisecond, but I'm wrong. Okay, we can hear it again. Let's listen.
After seeing it for only 13 milliseconds.
So it's milla. So it is the schwa, the sound. I checked it in the dictionary because I wasn't sure, and it confirms that it is the sound. This is something that's really great about having this, about being able to listen and read, because you can go back, you can zoom in on things, you can repeat things, and you can get students to really notice what they're listening to. So yeah, so I learned something from listening to this. I picked that up, so I've learned how to correctly pronounce millisecond. Okay, let's continue.
To explain all the details of the smiling couple in writing would take significantly longer. As Mary Potter, professor of brain and cognitive sciences at MIT, explains, What vision does is find concepts. That's what the brain is doing all day long, trying to understand what we're looking at.
There we go. So this introduction, okay, the first part of the reading, it's showing us that we can understand an image very, very quickly, 13 milliseconds. But if we were going to write down that information and read it, it would take much longer. So what we can learn from that is that the brain is hot wired to understand visuals. That's what it does all day. Sight is our most important sense, and our brain is constantly trying to comprehend what it sees. And that is why infographics are so effective, because our brain is designed to get information that way. It's natural for us. Reading is something that we learn. It's not as natural as interpreting images. Okay, let's move on and listen to the next part. Okay, here we go. So part number 2. I think this is very
Data
interesting.
visualization journalist and educator Alberto Cairo thinks that words alone are not powerful enough to communicate effectively. You also need visuals. Visual data is most effective when there is an aha moment, when the information provides spontaneous insight. These visuals immediately create understanding of complex concepts. Cairo cites a chart, Figure 1, that shows the sudden rise in global temperatures as an example of this. With its sharp curve upward, the chart quickly conveys how rapidly our planet is warming. Visual data also appears to make information seem more credible. A study carried out at Cornell University in New York showed that 67% of participants believed information when they read it in a document without a graph. However, when a graph was included, 96% believed the same information. Alberto Cairo agrees that a message looks more scientific when you put charts in it.
Okay, I'm going to pause it there. So I think this is really, really interesting information. So let's see if any of you can remember. They gave us some numbers there. Okay, I'll scroll back so that you can read it. So they talk about people believing information. So maybe you can remember, or maybe you can read it here. So what percentage of people believe information when they read it in a document with no visual? Let's see if any of you can answer that. 67%, right, great. And when they gave the same information, but where they added a graph, okay, same information, but they added a graph, what percentage believe that information? 96%. So we can see that adding a graph, okay, actually makes it more credible. It makes information more credible, more believable. Almost 30% more believe it when they see it accompanied with a visual. And that's something that's very interesting, and also something that has big implications to when we are going on the internet, for example, and we're looking at things like adverts, when we're looking at people who are trying to convince us of something, and they add in information through the form of graphs, okay, because they know that people will believe it. Okay, so this is something our students need to think about. We can't believe everything that we read, but you can't believe everything that you see, particularly in charts and graphs, because they can manipulate, they can mislead us. Let's continue.
He points out that visual data can also mislead because it makes textual information look more serious and academic than it perhaps is. The pitfalls of visual data. Even though graphs may look credible, they can be misleading, especially if faulty logic is used to present information. Figure 2, for example, shows the rise and fall of the performance of athletes who appeared on the cover of Sports Illustrated magazine. The graph appears to imply there is a cause-effect relationship between two events. Being on the cover of the magazine leads to poor performance afterward. In fact, athletes usually appear on magazine covers when they are at the peak of their performance. After this stage, it is most probable that athletes' performance will eventually decline.
Okay, let's stop there. So we're going to go back and have a look at, I know it's a bit small, okay, but we can see it at the top. So we talked about this graph earlier with the athletes. And I think this is really, really, really fascinating, that when we look at this graph, the graph does, as they said in the reading, it does seem to be telling us that there is a cause and effect between these two events, between appearing on the cover and the performance dropping. So we could easily use this as evidence to say, don't go on, tell athletes you shouldn't go on the cover of this magazine, because if you do, your performance is going to drop. It would be easy if someone told us, if we read it in a convincing article, a lot of people would believe it. But what's actually happening there? Why is their performance dropping after they appear on the cover? So there is a link, there's a correlation, but it is not the cause. So can anyone tell me, why do these athletes, why is their performance dropping after they are on the cover of the magazine? Can anyone have a go at answering that one for me? No one's had a go yet. Right, okay, so Bella's got it. So when they appear on the magazine, they're at the peak of their performance. So basically, we're not going to put, this is a famous magazine for sports people. When athletes start their career, let's say when they're 16, 17 years old, they're not good enough to be on the cover, right? They're not famous enough. They're not good enough for what they do. So athletes tend to reach their peak at around 26, 27 years old. And at that point, they've been around for a long time. They're famous, they're successful, and that's why they get onto the cover. So Sports Illustrated, they can choose any athlete in the world. They only pick the best ones, right? So of course, if an athlete is already at their peak, after that, they're going to get worse. Okay. So if your peak is when you're 27 and that's when you're on the magazine, you cannot maintain that peak until you're 40. So your performance is going to drop. So it's not because they are on the magazine. It's just coincidental. It's a correlation, but it's not caused by being on the magazine. But we can see here how it would be easy for people to be misled by the information that we can see here. Okay, let's continue for the last part.
So, although there may be a correlation between two events, that does not mean that one event has a direct effect on the Figure 3 illustrates the effectiveness of two drugs, and there seems to be a big difference between them. However, the difference looks greater than it really is.
Okay, and the final part of the listening.
This is because the numbers on the vertical axis go only from 40% to 55%, making it look like drug A is 5 times more effective than drug B. In fact, the difference between the two drugs is only about 10%. In addition, the color of the bar for drug A and positive than drug B.
Okay, so let me just move this over here. Okay, and the last one, so we looked at this visual 3 and we did the poll on it, right? Okay, we did the poll and 40% of you told me that drug A was about 10% more effective. And you are right. Okay, so congratulations, okay, to the 40% of you. But most of us, 60%, actually got the answer wrong. And the reason for that is because of the way they have presented the information. So on the y-axis here, okay, on the left, they've started from 40 and got to 55 rather than starting from 0. Now, when we look at that, it makes it look like we've kind of magnified it so that drug A, the column is so much bigger. So again, we can present information like this to mislead people. Oh, drug, they've also changed the color. They've made it green. Okay, so it stands out. So when we look at this, if we just have a casual glance, Arlene says it must be from an advert. That's right. I would say this is an advert from the makers of drug A. When we look at it, we immediately think there's a huge difference, but actually the difference is quite small, 10%. So the information is accurate. The information is accurate, but because of the way they presented the scale, it's misleading. All right. But the information is accurate. Okay, let's just quickly finish listening to the end and then we will finish off.
Some visuals may be unintentionally misleading. Others, however, may be deliberately designed to influence the viewer. According to Cairo, deliberately misleading visuals are designed to make a point, not to objectively present facts. While he thinks this may be valid in advertising or PR, it's not a good example of objective journalistic communication. Cairo believes that while designers may never be able to approach information in a completely neutral way, they should at least try. That is what journalism is. Visualizing the future. According to Jeff McGee, a data visualizer at Stanford University, new forms of visual data are pushing the boundaries of what we can process. Unlike traditional visual data, these new types of visuals use thousands of data points, such as the map showing global connections on Facebook, the first image in this reading passage. Many of these modern visualizations feature a huge number of thin, overlapping, and semi-transparent lines. The 3D effect allows viewers to see through points to look at others behind. Some journalists worry that complex visualizations such as these may make beautiful data art, but risk confusing readers instead of enlightening them. For Alberto Cairo, the key issue with visualization is not complexity or beauty, but whether the public is reliably informed. When creators of visual data are balanced and honest, he says, great visualizations change people's mind for the better.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to ask you one more question about this. Okay, so as a conclusion, okay, what is the key issue with visualization? Okay, so if we are presenting information to people, what, according to Cairo, okay, what is the key issue here? Let's see if anyone can find that answer for me. Yeah, Amir says it may be misinterpreted. Okay, so we can see here the key issue, it's not about how good it looks. Okay, the key issue is whether the public is reliably informed. And I think this is a really nice summary to this. So although we started off by looking at infographics, we like the way they look, it's easier to understand them. This article that we're reading here from National Geographic actually shows us that in the end, the most important thing is that we are being reliably informed, that we can trust the information. So I think I really enjoy this article. There is so much that we can unpack from this, so much we can share with our students, so much to discuss here. And unfortunately, we've run out of time. But I hope you've enjoyed the article. So yeah, what do you think? Can you type into the chat box for me? What did you think about this article and about the information we've looked at today? How do you feel about that? Amazing, informative, yeah, inspiring and informative, right? So somebody asked, how do we know what is reliable? Well, actually, so we don't have time to do all this. You know, this is much longer than a 1 hour lesson. But if we go into the tasks here, we can see that we can actually go through, and there's lots of tasks here which will help us to understand the point. So maybe we'll just do this one very, very quickly. Okay, I know I'm over time, okay, but if you can stay with me, okay, that's great. So if we have a look at, here are our three visuals that we looked at. And we then have these questions here. So it says here, the y-axis has a misleading scale. Okay, so you can tell me which one of these three, the y-axis has a misleading scale. So is it number 1, number 2, or number 3? 1, 2, or 3? 1, 2, or 3? Number 2, is it this one? The y-axis has a misleading scale. I don't think it's that one. Anyone else have a go for me? Yeah, it's number 3. Okay, so we talked about here starting from 40. So here, this exercise is going to reinforce to our students the things that we should be looking for when we are looking at data. So we should look at the scale. Okay, where does it start? Okay, how is that affecting it? How about number 2? It shows a trend that is increasing. Okay, which one of these shows a trend that's increasing? So remember, a trend is something that is changing. Okay, a change. Which one shows the trend? It is number 1. There we go. And we can see it's this red line going up. Okay, so we can talk about trends. Which one presents a misleading comparison? So comparing two different things. So number 2 and number 3, they're both misleading, but only one of them is a comparison. So it is number 3. Okay, it's a misleading comparison because the scale is not fair. Which one illustrates performance levels over time? Okay, 1, 2, or 3. Performance levels over time, and the answer is number 2. There we go. Which one shows the relative success of two products? And this one is number 3. Okay, congratulations. We're getting these all right. Okay, just a few more. Which one provides quick insight into complex information? Quick insight into complex information. So which one is really showing us a lot of different information? I think it is number 1. Okay, so we've got a lot of information there. This is an important one, G. Which one implies an incorrect cause-effect relationship? And that is number 2. Okay, we looked at that there. Okay, this is one that's misleading because it's showing us, it's implying the cause-effect relationship. And the last one, which allows various data to be compared against an average. Okay, that one was number 1. So this is just one of the activities here. We've got a lot of really nice activities, including all the vocabulary, including the comprehension. And the last one here, which I think is really nice, which I'm going to show you, is here we have the same graph. Okay, so this graph here, we have the same information, just with a different scale. And it's showing us the amount of money, okay, the GDP in the United States, okay, from January 2014 to May 2015. And all that's different here is the scale. And it asks us a question here. So why have we got these two different graphs? Which one is more useful? All right, so let's have a look. If we look at the scale is different. If we look at which scale would be more suitable for each situation. So if we want to look at the detail of monthly changes in the US's GDP, the detail of monthly changes, which one? Yeah, it would be the one on the left, number 1, because we can see the scale is bigger, so we can see more detailed information. But if we want to look at comparing another country's GDP in the same time period, so let's say we want to compare with China's GDP, for example, which graph would be better? It would be this one, because we're not interested in the minute details, we're interested in the trend. So if we're going to compare with another country, we would want to use number 2. So again, so much that we can do with the information here. It's not just about the reading, understanding the reading, it's also about interpreting these visuals. And yeah, and that, I say we're over time, okay, so we're going to have to leave that there. But I hope that you've enjoyed seeing these different elements that we've looked at. I'm just going to go back into my PowerPoint, okay, and just wrap things up. So let's start a slideshow from here. I saw some of you commenting on introducing science, introducing different elements of science and different subjects, cross-curricular. So that's something that we try very hard to do in all of our programs. It's also something that Pathways in particular, which I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about. So we've been looking today at the academic skills program Pathways. There are dual strands. We have the listening, speaking, and critical thinking. Which you can see here. There are 5 levels going from the foundations level, which is A1 to A2, okay, all the way up to level 4, which is C1, which is an advanced level. We have the same levels for the reading, writing, and critical thinking, which is what we've been looking at today. I'm going to do one more poll for you here. Let's see, I'm going to relaunch my final poll. If you are you interested in learning some more information about our academic skills program Pathways? If you are, please click yes now, and we will send you some more information, including a way to contact our reps. If you're interested in using these books in your school, you'll be able to contact our rep for more information about how you can purchase this program, these books. So I'll give you a few seconds just to give me a yes or a no. I know some of you attended our webinar on Tuesday with Christian, so I hope that after seeing these 2 webinars, you've got a good understanding of the academic skills program. I'm going to leave the poll open just while I go on and finish by giving you a little bit more information. Yeah, so Pathways has 3 main aims. Okay, the first one is to develop our students' English skills. It's to develop their English and also their skills. Next, the aim is to connect students to the real world and through real content from National Geographic Learning. So just as I showed you today, that was a real reading from National Geographic magazine, and it has real world application. So we're connecting them to skills that they're going to use every day in their lives. And finally, of course, as we want all of our students to achieve, so the final aim of Pathways is to get students to achieve academic success. And we do that by introducing them to the vocabulary, the skills, the critical thinking, but also the reading skills, the writing skills that they need to achieve that. We will be sending out a certificate to everyone who has joined us today in Zoom. So check your, we'll send that out tomorrow, okay, because we have another webinar this evening. The webinar this evening is the same as today. So if you've attended this morning, you don't need to attend again. We will send that email to you tomorrow. In that email we send you tomorrow will be a link to the certificate. Please check your junk mail to make sure that it's not in there. There will also be a link to the recording, so you'll be able to watch the recording again if you wish. Yeah, in terms of questions, sorry, I'm over time, so I haven't. I'm just going to have a quick look in the question book. So Elaine has asked, are the books available in Kindle or Apple iBooks format? We do have an ebook. So it's not Kindle and it's not iBook. But we do have ebooks which are available. It's called Vital Source. Okay, the program we use is called Vital Source, and if you are interested in getting the ebook, again, you can talk to one of our reps, which we're going to send you to. We're going to send you the information later on. The e-certificate, as I just mentioned, will be sent to you tomorrow in an email. Diana's asking if Pathways can be used in IELTS prep class. So Diana, you will find a lot of question types, for example, in the reading book I just showed you, are similar to IELTS question types. And as I just showed you there, you could easily adapt tasks to mimic IELTS tasks, but it is not specifically an IELTS prep class. It's not specifically an IELTS prep class, but a lot of the question types are the same. So it would certainly complement an IELTS class, and it would certainly give the students a lot of practice in the skills that they need to take IELTS. Okay, great. What level of learners is Pathways suitable for? Pathways runs from an A1, A2, so that's kind of an elementary level, all the way up to C1, which is an advanced level, Vanessa. Okay, so it goes all the way from elementary up to advanced. And this program we're looking at today is in American English. Finally, okay, we have an upcoming webinar. The upcoming webinar we have, the next one is going to be for 7 steps. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to move my poll box out of the way. 7 steps towards creativity in the classroom. This is on the 24th of November. This is with John Hughes, who is actually the author of some of our programs, including the LIFE program, and he is an industry expert on creative and critical thinking. I think you really don't want to miss this one. This is one you definitely want to sign up for. I'm just going to make sure I put into the chat box for you now the webinar page, so that you can make sure that you register. Okay, it's coming up. Sorry, my Zoom box. Okay, here it is. Right, you can see it here. Some of you are requesting the link to register. I'm going to put it into the box, into the chat box now. Okay, here we go. Okay, that is the, you should be able to see it now. There we go, it's there. So if you click on that link I just put in, you will be able to go and register for John's webinar. I will be doing another webinar linked to that. So I will be doing a webinar on life on the 26th of November, which is going to be partnering the one that John does. So the advert, the link is not up yet for my webinar, but keep going back and keep checking, okay, because that will be up fairly soon, and then you'll be able to register for that one as well, and you can attend both of the webinars. So thank you very much, everyone. I'm sorry I'm way over time. Okay, I'm gonna have to shorten the one for this evening, but thank you for attending. We've still got over 200 people here. I'm gonna end the webinar here. I'm gonna stop recording.